This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm joined by Darren Barker over Zoom for the first time in 2021. Hopefully, we won't have too many Zoom interviews and more face-to-face interactions, Darren. But Happy New Year. How are you? How is life?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. I'm good. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? What's going on? But we're having to. By the way, I've got my daughter's just come in the room because she's obviously bored. So I apologise now if she pokes her head in or does something that she shouldn't. But yeah, look, crazy. We're all in the same boat, aren't we? I'm having to wear a hat now because I can't afford to pay my central heating bill. But nah, look, it is what it is, isn't it?
How did you enjoy the festive period, Darren, for as best as what you could, obviously?
Yeah, it was probably like everyone else. I ate too much, I drank too much, and I spent too much. I've got 4 kids, so I can't help but spoil them. I'll tell you, every single year I won't do it, but we're all the same, aren't we? You want your kids to have what you didn't have, so I spoiled them again. But no, it was nice. It was the first year I've actually cooked Christmas dinner, and it went down well. The wife liked it. I enjoyed it. The issue is actually I noticed when I cook, I pick at everything. I'm eating. So the time dinner came, I wasn't that hungry. But yeah, it was nice, mate. It was nice. You know, I was supposed to be around with mum and dad's, like we do most years. That's mummy's phone. Do you want to give it to her? Give it to mummy. Quick. It's ringing, so that's good. Quick, give it to her, quick. Good girl. Yeah, I'm usually around my mum and dad's house, so it was a shame not to see them because my nan and granddad lived next door to my mum and dad, so I would have seen them and my brother, my sister, my brother-in-law. You know, we're really close family, so it was a shame not to see them and have Christmas dinner with them. But at the end of the day, you know, we've got to start looking after one another, and I've got to protect my parents, and probably more so my grandparents, because you know they're 75 now, so I need to look after them. So yeah, it was nice though. It was nice. It's Joe. What? It's always a funny year for me anyway. Christmas. And though it was 14 years ago, my brother died on the 10th of December, and it's always a bit of a funny time for me. But yeah, it's just nice seeing the kids happy and the kids excited. So, but yeah, here we are, 2021.
We are indeed, Darren. 2021, a new year. Unfortunately, seems to be the same old life as to what we witnessed and kind of went through in 2020. But the show goes on, and let's get into some boxing talk. Let's start off with this past weekend. First and foremost, Darren, Luke Campbell, unsuccessful in his bout with Ryder Garcia. Just reflect on that one for me first, Darren. What did you make of it?
Do you know what? Well, I do think Garcia is the real deal, and he belongs in the big league with the likes of Lopez, Davis, Lomachenko, etc., Haney. You know, all of these guys. He's very good, but I got a little bit of stick for picking Luke Campbell on points, and I just. You know, I didn't do bundles of research on it, but I looked at both fighters and I thought, well, Luke Campbell's going to show up. This is his real big chance now, and one of his last chances. He's going to give it everything. He's going to box out of his skin. And when I thought about that, and I thought about his pedigree, I thought he could unsettle Garcia and nick some of the rounds. It was always going to be difficult, Luke winning on points anyway, because of where he was and who he was fighting. But I just thought he would unsettle Garcia. But what happened was instantly from the first round, he gave up too much space, Luke. instead of holding the centre of the ring and working from the centre of the ring. I know it's easier said than done, but always allow space behind you. So you can move around back to the centre of the ring. And he did it a couple of times. There's a moment where he pivot and he spanned Garcia. Well, the ideal scenario in a fight is to do that from the centre of the ring. That way you're dictating and you're in control of the space. It's not a huge space, the ring. So any advantage you can get, inches, you know, centimeters, etc., helps. And he gave up too much room. And I could tell instantly from the first round that he was going to struggle against someone who's so quick. Because what Garcia does so well, we all know how quick his hands are. And I'll come on to this in a minute, but he moves his feet so quickly out of range, Garcia. That, for me, is his best defense, how quickly he can move out of range. And what he was able to do, where he pushed Luke Campbell so far back, he had so much room behind him that he was able just to take a step back. But also, when I looked at the build-up in the fight, I started watching Garcia, and instead of looking at his strengths as a fighter, what I would do is look at a fighter's weakness. So when I was fighting someone, I'd be like, right, what does he do wrong? Even what does he do wrong when he does something right? You know, he might throw a lovely jab, but his right hand's here. Or he might throw a jab and his right hand's here. He might throw a left hook and his right hand's here. So I was watching it with that in mind. And he does a lot wrong, Garcia. He's got to improve in his defense. Like I say, he relies a lot on his quick feet to get out of range, but he pulls out of range like that. When he throws shots, his chin's up in the air, he drops his right hand. There's a lot he's got to work on if he wants to beat the likes of Lopez, etc., etc. Yeah, so when watching all of that, I did think Luke Campbell may have enough. Obviously, there's the experience side of things, and when you've got someone like Garcia who's desperate to impress and show that he's the next, you know, lightweight De La Hoya, etc. I just thought, you know, Luke could nick rounds, but I was wrong. It was a lovely shot to drop Garcia, because another thing that I watched, Garcia can be a sucker to traps, and what Luke Campbell done brilliantly was fake the jab to the body, or even throw the jab to the body, and he got a reaction, and the reaction which you shouldn't do. He should have used his feet to get out of range, or used his elbow to tap it, but he parried the jab, and that's a no-no, because there you're wide open. You've got such a long way back to protect yourself, and he got caught with a beautiful hook. But credit to Garcia, he come back, he regrouped. He was never really badly hurt, I don't think. Well, to be fair, he was dropped quite heavy, but he got up and he showed that he's got a warrior's heart. Because that's an instinct that you don't know if you've got it or not until you put and faced in a situation like that. And he come back really well. It was a lovely body shot. It was very Canelo-esque, wasn't it? You know, faking the left hook to the head and drop into the body. It's a beautiful shot. And to do something like that, you've got to have tremendous speed. And he proved he's not just extremely quick on the pads doing all that. He's very quick when it matters. And yeah, I was impressed. And what a division. You know, I feel like we've been talking about the heavyweights an awful lot recently, and the welterweights and the super middles, blah, 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 blah. But all of a sudden it's the lightweights now. And what a division. What a division. Like there, some of those fights amongst the big, five there, some of the fights after AJ Fury that I'm most looking forward to.
I was going to say,
hold on, let me just see if I can get her out. 100% she'll come back. Yeah.
Dan, I was going to say, obviously, you mentioning with names there, you've got Garcia, Devin Haney, Lopez. Did she just walk back in?
Yeah, of course she did. I can't tell her off. But anyway, she's
okay.
done it.
Yeah, you've got obviously the likes of Haney, Lopez, Tank.
Get some chocolate off mummy. Go on, it is only 20 past 10. Go on, get some chocolate. Get some chocolate off mummy.
Thank you, Daddy.
Bye, darling. Right, go on. Sorry, mate.
It's okay. I'm keeping that in, by the way.
Go on, man.
Darren, obviously, you mentioned the names there. You know, you got Ryan Garcia, obviously, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, you got Javante Davies, Shakur Stevenson, if you moved up, or as your mate Johnny Nelson would say, you've got James Tennyson as well. Out of the names, especially the American ones, who would you like to see next? And in Ryan Garcia's case, who would you like to see next?
The man to beat's Lopez. So, I mean, obviously, I think it's Haney next, right?
Yeah.
I think that looks like it's obvious. It's a brilliant fight. I need to look at that a little bit before I make a prediction with that. I can see methods of victory for both fighters there, but I'd have to look at it a bit more to give you a prediction there. But right now, if you was to say Lopez Garcia, Lopez wins for me. He's just a little bit better in every department. Maybe not as quick as Garcia, but I think his defense is better. His all round, the ring craft. He's harder, I think, and I think Lopez is the man to beat. I still think Lomachenko plays a part if he stays in the lightweight division. I think. What was it? His shoulder, I think. Didn't he have an operation straight after the fight? And look, it was a genuine excuse, I think, to why he didn't throw more punches. But yeah, like I said, it's a division that I'm really looking forward to watching and keeping an eye on for the remainder of this year if we do get boxing.
Just a final thing on the fight from the past weekend. That second round when Luke dropped Ryan, score it a 10-8. One judge gave it a 10-9. Just your thoughts on that? Yeah,
I mean that's ridiculous. That's why I feel a bit silly picking. I don't feel silly picking Campbell on points if it was anywhere else, but in America, that's crazy. He dropped him. That for me, you could argue that Garcia was winning the round, but regardless, I think when you drop someone and it was there wasn't any. Did he get caught with a proper shot? Was it a legitimate knockdown? Blah, blah. It's a proper knockdown. It was a lovely shot, well executed. It's a 10-8 round, but none of that matters, I guess. But on another note, judges there's got to be, I don't know whether you call it a punishment or repercussions or something. There's got to be tougher penalties on judges, I think, because you can't get so many people saying that someone won a round or a fight and that one individual doesn't. Look, I know that it's scoring subjective and there are some cases where you could argue in different fights that you might have it one way or another, but I just I like it. I don't want it is ruining the sport in some ways, because a lot of people are talking about how bad judging is, and I don't want it to be all that people talk about, because there's so many great fighters out there, so many brilliant fights we've got to look forward to, and I don't want it to be overshadowed by terrible judging. And do you know what the funny thing is, though, that people seem to think that there's corruption that goes on. As far as I'm aware, and I know that's not the case. Promoters aren't going up to judges and saying, "Yeah, it's a couple of grand. Make sure you go with my man." That doesn't happen. We're not going. It's not the 1950s anymore. But for some reason, some judges just don't see it how everyone else does, and I think they need to be. I don't know what is the protocol for judges and what they need to do, but I think if they are way out, they need to be looked at and maybe do a test or something, because like I say, I don't want it to ruin the sport.
Darren, just with judges, I've seen a few people pop up on social media saying that they feel ex-fighters should become judges because they have effectively one of the best minds with regards to being able to judge a fight, having fought themselves. Do you think that's the right move to see ex-pros take up that sort of boxing?
Could be, but you got to remember, if I use, say, I don't know, myself and Matthew Macklin as examples. Matthew was a come forward fighter, aggressive fighter. I was more of a standoff boxer. So would I subconsciously be judging or scoring rounds for the boxer, whereas Matthew might be scoring the round for the man that's the aggressor? So I think that's like I say, again, subjective to the individual, what they prefer. But I think whether there's an aggressor or a standoff boxer, I think, you know, it comes down to who's managing that round better, who's obviously landing more shots. And it's another thing, sometimes the angle of where you're placed in the ring, you may not see a shot and another judge might. That's another reason why it's hard. But yeah, I think the more people who have been boxers that are involved in either reffing, judging, training, managing, I think the better, because we know, you know, every aspect of boxing, the physical side of it, the emotional side of it, everything. And yeah, I hope to see more in it. Like, it's something I've actually sent off for my manager's license, because I think it's something I've seen, you know, a few other boxers do it, and I think it's something I would like to do. I'd like to guide fighters, I think, and jump on their journey, you know, jump on the glory train. You know, it's something I miss. I miss that journey. I miss that, me do it. Not so much competing, but just the actual journey. I miss, you know, going through the ranks, winning all these different titles. And I would love to guide my own fighters on that path and you know, help them fulfill their dreams. And it's good to see so many ex-fighters feeling the same and trying to look out for aspiring professionals.
It's just an interesting thing you say about obviously going into or looking to go into the management side of the business, Darren. Obviously, you previously worked with Dave Allen. Reflecting on that, why do you think that kind of, in that instance, it wasn't the right move, or at least at that time, whereas now you're looking
Good
at
question. Yeah, and it's quite a simple one for me. I'm not ready for the physical side of it, the training aspect. I don't, as much as I will always help the fighters that I one day manage, verbally, it's not something that I actually want to. I don't have the passion to coach fighters. You know, I gave it a go with Dave, and I enjoyed my time with Dave, but it's not for me. You know, to be honest, I've got loads of injuries. My elbows hurt, my shoulders hurt. And I don't think I could physically deal with the workload, if I'm honest. And I think that's why you don't see bundles and bundles of ex-fighters coaching. And I think that is one of the reasons, because you just, like, I boxed for 20 odd years, I think 23 years, and you're just smashing the life out of yourself. You know, I've had 4 cortisones in my left elbow, 3 in my right elbow, in my shoulder, in my Achilles tendon, like, and then that's not all the surgery I've had, and then to be coaching fighters and you're taking them whacks, and you know, you're wearing body bags and blah blah blah. So training's not for me, but I do feel I can offer a lot to a fighter, technically and tactically as well. I think I read a fight quite well. I think I'm tactically quite sound. So the fighters that I do manage, I always will help verbally to help them win fights, and it just appeals to me. You know, I love boxing. I like it's like a family member to me. I can't, and I say this all the time, I can't remember. My life's always had boxing in it. My dad boxed, obviously, and I've done it to make him proud. I just have this mad love for the sport, and I want to stay involved in it.
Darren, I was going to say moving forwards, but moving backwards again into last year, Canelo Smith. Your thoughts on Saul Canelo Alvarez's unanimous decision victory over Callum?
It was impressive, and I won money on it. And I didn't want to bet against the Brit, but I got Golovkin in the 7th round correct. I know he didn't come out for the 8th, so I won money on that. Then I rolled it over for Canelo Smith. To be honest, I thought the fight would be closer. I thought Canelo would win it on points, and I think I did think he would deserve it on points. I didn't think he'd stop Smith, but I did think he would win on points, and it played out pretty similar to how I thought it would. If I'm honest, I don't know many fighters that can push Canelo back now. He's got such a great balance, and he's like, in my opinion, one of the best defenses in boxing ever. I mean, it's different to Floyd Mayweather's, but it's so quick and fluid and just so pleasing on the eye. You know, the way he rides the right hand when it comes. I mean, if you don't time that correctly, you're getting knocked spark out. So to be able to have that timing and that distance, to be able to just turn your head to take the sting out of a shot, for me is impressive. You'd have never caught me in a million years trying that. I would have been flat on my back. So I was just kind of, I wouldn't say in awe of Canelo, but I was just so impressed with his punch variation, the setting of traps, you know, the disguising of shots, the defense, like I say, the footwork, and the way he makes the most of his frame in that division, because he's by far the biggest. We see the height difference, ridiculous. But his center of gravity is so good, and yeah, I'm very impressed with him. Callum Smith, he can definitely come again. There's you know, that's if he wants to or not. If I'm honest, one sec, I'm not sure though. Like Smith can come again, but to be honest, Callum's made so much money and he's achieved it all. If the hunger's not there, I wouldn't be surprised if Callum just says, you know what a career. Go down as one of our best super middleweights we've had, beating most and winning pretty much everything you can, earning a lot of money. Yeah, if he wants to, he can definitely come again. There's some big domestic fights out there for him, and obviously he's more than capable. He's proved that in the past of winning world titles at the division. Personally, I think if he does continue, he'll probably move up to light heavy. I mean, it must be a real struggle for him to make super middleweight, surely. He's so tall. But yeah, I was ultra impressed with Canelo. So I look forward and really hope, if I'm honest, that he takes on Billy Joe Saunders next, because if Billy's on form, it's a tough fight for Canelo, because I would say that the two best fighters I've ever been in the ring with in my whole life, skill-wise, were Billy Joe Saunders and Mikael Kessler. Just such good fighters, and I was British champion when I sparred with Billy. So Billy was a novice pro, and a very good fighter. And I think if he's on his day, he's a nightmare for anyone.
Something I was about to ask you, Darren, you mentioned the Billy Joe fight there. Canelo said he's going to face Yildirim, his WBC mandatory around the end of Feb. And then you've got looking at the Billy Joe fight for May 5th, and then he wants to fight effectively the other world champion, which at the minute is Caleb Plant, around September time. Who do you think has the best chance of beating Billy Joe? Looking on social media, name that Canelo hasn't mentioned, but people think if Canelo moved back up to 175, could run into a few problems with his Artur Beterbiev.
Yeah.
Your eyes, who do you think has the best chance on defeating him?
Defeating Canelo?
Yeah.
Beterbiev, if he moves up, and Billy Joe. Yeah, in my opinion, those two. The light heavyweight, to think Canelo light heavyweight is mad, you know, beating Kovalev. But there was rounds where Kovalev was able to use his size and his range and his, you know, size to sort of kind of pick off Canelo at times. But it was almost like Canelo knew that was going to happen, and he was trying to take the fight to the later stages. But yeah, like I say, I think Billy can cause Canelo all sorts of problems, because he's got super reaction speed with his head movement, his hands and his feet. And we've seen with Billy, the harder the fight, the better he performs. And there is no bigger fight out there in boxing for Billy. So I imagine he would train his socks off, live the life, and perform to the absolute best of his ability. And if he was able to do that, which I'm sure he would, he'd have every chance of beating Canelo.
Just with Callum Smith and mentioning what could be next, Eddie's done an interview, I think it was yesterday, and he said that in the future he'd like to see a bout between Callum and Josh Buatsi for a world title down the line. Your thoughts? Interested, depending on when that could happen?
Yeah, I'm all for it. I think we're all fans of the big domestic bust-ups in our country. I'm all for that. I think Buatsi getting a little bit, or got a little bit of stick over his last fight, but I knew Kalic was going to be a nightmare. I knew it. As soon as I watched him, I thought to myself, this is going to be a hard night for Buatsi. He's game, he's awkward, and he's desperate to make his mark in the sport, and beating Buatsi would have done that. So I knew that was going to be a tough night. And you have them in boxing, you know what I mean? You can't be $1 million all the time. I mean, except a few fighters who have managed to do that. But it's tough. But for me, yeah, Buatsi can go on and achieve big things in this sport. I really believe that he's got all the ability in the world to be able to do so. And Callum Smith proved how good he is. So, yeah, I like it. I like that fight.
Darren, final fight from last year, I just want to touch on your man John Ryder fought the day before that. Hard to look good in that fight with Mr. Guy. Just your thoughts on it, though, and what you made of John's performance.
Just it's another win. It's keeping him busy, keeping him active, keeping his time and the distance there. Look, we all know John Ryder deserves a big fight. I still stand by it. I think he's done enough to beat Callum in Liverpool. And yeah, he's got his eyes on bigger things. I mean, as far as his opponent's concerned, like you say, it's very difficult to look good against someone who's literally in there to survive and has no intentions of winning the fight, which he didn't, because he just moved and he didn't engage whatsoever. But John done the right thing. He won the fight, comes out without any injuries, etc. And he'll be looking to get out in a big world title fight or eliminator as soon as we're able to have boxing back. So look, sometimes you've just got to understand what the fight was and why you was in there and what you were doing it for, and equally think about what your opponent was doing and think, you know, yeah, it was hard to look good, but I've done exactly what I set out to do, and that was win the fight.
Moving to this year, Darren, obviously the British Boxing Board of Control have suspended shows for January to the very least. Just your thoughts on that decision?
Look, I said it to you before we went live. The British Boxing Board of Control make money when they sanction fights, when shows go ahead. So if they don't believe that or if they don't want to put a strain on the NHS by taking paramedics away from this pandemic, then I have to respect it massively, because, you know, they're thinking more so of the safety of the general public as opposed to lining their pockets. So yeah, you have to respect it. It's a shame. It really is. You know, it's the fourth time we've been looking forward to Kelly Avanesian. So I'm gutted, but we've got to put boxing to one side. This is no joke now. I'm like everyone else. I'm sick of it. I'm so saddened when I hear of people dying and people losing loved ones. Like my good friend from school, he just lost his dad, and he wasn't able to see him. Do you know what I mean? And it's so sad. So I think we've got to realise this ain't going nowhere unless we all pull together. So the board doing their thing, protecting the NHS as well as they can, and not worrying about money, etc. I think it is a very good thing. It's a positive thing that the board have done there. And you got to remember, I'm saying this as one of the biggest boxing fans out there. I love the sport. It's my life. But I want to see packed out venues again. I want this virus to go away. And if we all pull together, then hopefully we will. I mean, being banged up now for, where are we now? The 5th of January, you know, was it a month and 10 days or something? It's going to be hard. You know what I mean? Like, I've got so many things that I want to get going that I have to put on ice now. But you've got to remember what we're all doing this for. It's crazy. You know, this is going to be spoken about forever. But anyway, I'm waffling now.
Darren, just a couple more things to touch on before I let you go. Amir Khan has come out and said that he'd like to face Campbell-Brook this year. You still interested in that fight?
Oh, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Like, the reason why I reacted like that is, yeah, I'd love to see it. It's way, way, way past when it should have happened. Would I be nervous and excited for when that fight? I'm just imagining both fighters walking to the ring. I'll be buzzing. But it's just, I think, to anyone that may watch this who's a young fighter or a manager or promoter, and you should use that as an example. If you're trying to hold out for a bit more money or this or that, or for whatever reason you're not taking a big fight that could define your career. And I'm not saying that either fighter needed that fight to define their career. You know, they've both had brilliant careers. I just think sometimes you've got to bite the bullet, because I personally think, though they've both achieved great things, they'll kick themselves a little bit. I think, man, that's a shame that fight didn't happen. Like I say, neither of them needed the fight. Look at Amir Khan's fought and won. I mean, he's had a tremendous career. He made millions. Campbell-Brook, you know, I think he gets a bit of stick, but he's had a stop-start career with injuries, etc., and things outside of the ring, but he still managed to become a world champion and have some massive fights, which is so impressive. But I think it is a little bit, well, it's too late. It's too late now. But would I watch it? Would I be excited to watch it? Yeah, 100%.
All right, Darren, we're going to leave that there now. I'm going to leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. But just to keep everybody in a cheerful mood, I want you to kind of give your final thoughts on last year and a boost to everybody for ahead of this year.
Last year for me, boxing-wise, was put aside what happened with the pandemic and all that. Boxing was brilliant. You know, going back to fight camp, I was so fortunate to have met so many amazing people. I had such a great time considering what was going on, and so blessed to watch so much brilliant boxing when we were starved of live sport. It was brilliant. You know, when I go like to a highlight, some of the highlights, Harper Jonas, Cheeseman Egerton, and that way we finished fight camp with White Povetkin, it was incredible. It was remarkable. And then to go to Wembley and again carry on the bubbles and spend some time with some brilliant people. For me, last year, boxing wise, was exceptional under the circumstances. I loved it, and that's on a personal level. I thought it was brilliant. And look, when I look forward to this year, I look forward to the massive fight that we're all hoping for, Fury Joshua, which I'm sure will happen. And like, wow, what a fight. Is there, you know, there is no bigger fight. It's one of the biggest fights ever. One of the biggest fights of the century. It's huge, absolutely massive. Then we've got the lightweight division that we've just been talking about. Some huge fights there. Domestically, there's so many brilliant fights. The rise of the women's game and how good the fights are in the women's game is exceptional. There's not many bad fights. So I think let's stay positive. Let's support everyone involved, from promoters to managers to the British Boxing Board of Control. Let's try and help them make this sport better. And I think if we all pull together, the future is very bright for the sport of boxing. And I'm proud to play a tiny part in it, because it's my life and I love it.
Darren, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you for the first time this year. I'll hopefully see you in person soon. Stay safe, and thank you, Speak to Boxing Social.
And you, mate. Take care.